Good morning, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day, the day for love and true crime. But that's every day. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, hi, hello, welcome. My name is Tanya, or TitaniumBuilt, either or. As you're coming in, if you wouldn't mind hitting the thumbs up, it really does help the channel grow, and it helps, get the video out so more people can come in and enjoy it. I'm going to drop the link if you want to become a member. It's also pinned at the top if you decide you want to become a member throughout the live. And last but not least, thank you for joining me today and coming in and the chat. I appreciate it so, so much. If you were not with us last night, we were up until so late. We did a 3.5-hour live last night, which I think that's my longest live. So if you were in for the chat last night, there was an active shooter at the Michigan State University campus, and they ended up catching him. He ended up, I believe, committing suicide, and they're going to give us more details throughout the next couple of days. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about it. So I will keep my ears open for that whenever we do get more. But they did say that it was a male, I believe, 43 years old. So it wasn't a student. Very strange to me. All of the victims were students, though, in fact. So, so I do have some stuff to go over today. Sorry, I'm a little sleepy today. For the Alex Murdaugh trial, I'm going to get us kind of caught up to, today's events. I was going to do some over last week, and then we just had so much other information coming out. It was kind of got shuffled to the back a little bit. But I heard that some people do have COVID, so they replaced 2 people with 2 alternates, and they have 6 alternates altogether, so they have 4 more backups if anything were to happen. But I heard the clerk of courts is out too. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, is the clerk of courts the one that does the talking into the mega mic thing, that she's the mouthpiece? Would that be the clerk? Oh, you're welcome, Summer. I'm wondering if that's the lady, because she's close to a lot of people. But I do have the body cam footage, and I do have another Nancy Grace video. It's not a podcast, actually. It's for her Crime Online with Nancy Grace. So I figured we'd go over it. Let her do some talking. Hey, Heels. Hey, Sergeant. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Valentine's Day. I guess I'm hungry. I'm looking at the picture on my... my picture was taken on Thanksgiving. Somebody came in here last night, and I think they asked if that was my daughter with me. And I was like, oh, no, but that's sweet. That's my great niece. No kids for me yet. And after last night and seeing the active shooter and all of that, I don't even know if I want kids. It scared me even more. And I'm already getting older. So it's I think I'm good. But the first video that we will go over, and if you want to, you guys could watch the live from last night. And I did actually also post a video, an update on Leilani Simon. So if you guys want, you can check that out as well. It should have came up. It was scheduled for 7:30 this morning. So it should be on your page if you look under notifications or under my tab. But Nancy Grace is joined by Dale Carson and Chris McDonough, and they're going to break down the state's evidence against Alex Murdaugh in this video I'm going to show you. They're going to explain how the blood was found on Murdaugh's steering wheel, and the rounds matching Murdaugh's family gun exposed discrepancies in Murdaugh's story of what happened, the night of the murders. And then I also have the body cam footage as well, and I figured we could watch that, and then we can always I think I'm going to do it on 1.5x because it's 30 minutes long, but most of it. You can't really hear much, and it's dogs barking, so I don't want to hurt your guys' ears the whole time. Good morning, SRB. Good morning, Mystic. So let's see here. I am not with the program today, but I knew I wasn't going to be. I wasn't even tired after I got off the live last night. I knew that would happen. It always, always, always happens. Whenever I'm done with the live, I am still, how you get I don't know how I would explain it. If you've ever been in customer service, or I feel like serving, you'll know, you'll understand perfectly. You get uppity up, you're on 50 because you're used to talking and, doing something. And then, for hours, then all of a sudden it comes to a stop and you're oh, But then I wasn't tired. I was just like, really? I was like, I should have just stayed on there. Oh, that's okay, Heels. She says she likes them. She'll be back all. He has time to unleash the lawyers. The way she says jurors, Nancy Grace and saying jurors, the way she says it, it gets me every time. Like I was watching a video, I think it was yesterday. And as soon as she said it, I felt Vincent like look over at me and he smiled because he knew I was going to be laughing about it. But hopefully you guys got everything you wanted for Valentine's Day. And if you didn't, hopefully you'll get yourself something nice. That's what I would do. It's actually better that way. You get what you want. But like I said, this one's gonna have Dale Carson and Chris McDonough from the interview room. She really likes him. She needs to get him out of there. Chris out, me in. How do we work that? So we got to figure that out. Yeah, see, Summer knows. She said, that's how I am after work, talking to customers all day, and then I get home and get a second wind. Yeah, it's like all of a sudden you can just do anything. Like you feel tired until, until I got off, I was like, oh, I'm getting tired. And then as soon as I got off here, I was like, oh, I'm up. And Murdaugh, yes. Oh my gosh, she likes to call him Murdaugh. She does. It's really funny. I know we got UFOs. We've got everything going on in the United States. It's been insane. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this video here for you guys, and we'll talk through it as well.
Well, the Alex Murdaugh trial continues, and it has been very rocky today. Already we've lost 2 jurors to a COVID infection. The clerk of court, who is an awesome lady, out with COVID. But the evidence continues to stream from the witness stand. Now, the judge did something really smart. He got, I believe it was 6 alternates. Now, in some jurisdictions, that may be considered too many alternates. I think it's perfect because we're already using 2 of them. Now, there's some word that the state is going to rest its case this week. If we can just get that jury through, say, another week or so of the defense's case, then we'll be into closing arguments and deliberations, hopefully without losing any more jurors. But let's talk about the evidence. I know that's what you want to hear about. With me, high-profile defense lawyer out of Jacksonville, Dale Carson. The reason I love him is because he's a former FBI agent. You can find him at dalecarsonlaw.com. And then the director at the Cold Case Foundation, former homicide detective. I found him looking for Kohberger information during the Idaho search for the killer in the student's death on YouTube in the interview room. You can find him at coldcasefoundation.org. Gentlemen, let's just get down and dirty. Let's start with the blood evidence.
I just want to point out that she straight tells people that she was trolling YouTube trying to find information out on Brian Kohberger, and that's how she came across Chris McDonough, which I think is kind of funny because you wouldn't think that a journalist of her caliber would have to go towards YouTube to try to find out information. I find that interesting. I find that maybe YouTubers aren't too bad after all, huh?
The blood evidence that we're hearing about today, the steering wheel on Alex Murdaugh's Chevy Suburban, which he drove the night that his wife and son were murdered, has blood on it, tested positive for blood, according to a SLED, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division agent specializing in DNA analysis. Her name, Rachel Nguyen. Let's talk about that. 3 things I want to talk about, if you can, gentlemen. 1, the blood. 2, the precise location where Curtis Edward Smith, a.k.a. Cousin Eddie, shot Murdaugh. And 3, the rounds found at the crime scene and throughout Moselle, the hunting lodge. If we can get to all 3 of those, that will be a miracle. So let's kick it off with the blood. First to you, Dale Carson, what do you make of blood being on the steering wheel of the Chevy Suburban? Listen, I went to a Chevy lot this weekend and got into one of these Suburbans, it's like it's a houseboat. It's huge. It goes way, way back. They're ginormous. They're huge. And I'm wondering, and I did it just because I wanted to see what Alex Murdaugh was driving. But the steering wheel is a perfect place for retaining blood DNA. And, I know the state couldn't be happier. And I guarantee you, it's going to be either Maggie's or Paul's or a mixture of Maggie's, Paul's, and Murdaugh's, or else the state wouldn't have brought it in. Go ahead, Dale.
This is all credible evidence to demonstrate his path of travel. Was he where he said he was when he was there? And if there's a mixture of the blood DNA analysis, then that indicates one thing. If it was only his blood, that indicates something else. But another favorite place to look is the key fob. And it's interesting to know whether or not they took that from him in the course of their investigation. And I haven't seen any evidence connected with that, so kind of doubt that happened. But another one is the seat adjustments. There are many other places to find that DNA from blood residue in an automobile.
Okay, you know what? That was all just... Have you ever watched the Charlie Brown series? Because you just sounded like the teacher. Wah, 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 wah. Because, listen, talk in regular people talk.
Sure, all right, well...
Why else would Maggie and or Paul's blood be on his steering wheel? How is he going to explain that away? I mean, is there some way he's going to say, I touched the bodies and I went back in my car and I beat my head against the steering wheel? What? Who's that? Is that Chris?
He says that he checked for a pulse on his kid who didn't have a head left and he could have gone back to his car to get on the cell phone. So there are any number of ways. But the question is, what did he tell the investigators, and does it conflict with what he told the investigators? Because that's where you can kill his credibility.
What about it, Chris McDonough?
So Nancy, there's a couple things going on here, right? Number one, if I think people have to understand, if you're using a shotgun, then that creates a blast, which creates an impact, and then that impact moves blood and other potential evidence either forward or backwards. And a shotgun known to go in all directions. So there's a couple possibilities. Number one, if that he was in the proximity of that shotgun blast, then blood could have potentially transferred onto him, and then when he got into a vehicle, that would have transferred into the vehicle.
Oh, stop. What are you trying to tell me? He sat on the steering wheel?
No.
He'd have to have blood on his hands to get it on the steering wheel.
Oh, right. He could have had it on his hands, but he could also have had it on, sometimes, clothing, as you're getting in and out of a vehicle when you're touching the steering wheel.
When I get in and out of the vehicle, any vehicle, my chest and tummy so far don't touch the steering wheel. No, Chris McDonough, I don't like disagreeing with you because you can run circles around me when it comes to certain matters. But if he shot the gun, okay, let's pretend he didn't shoot the gun.
Right.
How would he have what's his excuse for getting blood on the steering wheel? You're saying because he tried to turn them over or check their pulse?
That's what he said.
Yes, and let's remember, he introduced that narrative. All right?
Yes, he did.
So he introduces the narrative that he touches Paul, for sure. And then in that car interview, he said he went towards Maggie, but then he kind of backed away from that for a second, went back towards Paul, and that's where he introduced.
But here's the tricky part. Does he say he went back to the car after that? I don't remember him saying he went back to the car.
But you can hear a car in the background on that first 911 call.
Okay, that's a good point.
So I think that's where the prosecution's going here.
Yeah.
They're going to try to connecting to that car through that call.
Here's
Yeah,
another.
but the falsity of his testimony is in the very outset. I have never seen anyone go to a body that has been shot with a shotgun in the head to check for a pulse. I mean, why would you even think to do that? So that narrative, that statement given to law enforcement, from my perspective, is not credible. Now, whether the jury sees that or not is another matter entirely. And you may have to add to it to demonstrate conclusively to the jury panel that he is not being credible. And you do that with a discontinuity between the interview and the information he provided with that blood evidence, because it's either true or false that he went back to the car, and depending on whose blood is on that steering wheel will tell us a great deal.
Guys, previous witnesses have testified under oath that Murdaugh's hands and clothing were both clean the night of the murder, despite an incredibly bloody crime scene. So he did not have blood on his hands or his clothing when the cops got there. And remember, they put him in a vehicle and were talking to him. And we can see his hands. And he's touching his face. He does not have any blood on him. But I want to find out exactly what he says. I don't recall him saying he went and sat in his car. But that said, it's much better for the state that there is blood on the steering wheel than if there was not blood on the steering wheel. Do you agree with me on that, at least?
Yeah, I agree with you, because it shows that he went into the car, and that means he was present at the scene. Those were all, the defense hasn't acknowledged anything at this juncture. They haven't presented their side of the case. So the more tied down the evidence is by the state, the more effective they are against any kind of testimony coming from the defense angle.
You know what's a big mistake? And I don't know if the state's going to do this or not, but it's a big mistake to try to explain DNA to a jury. It's hard enough for scientists to really understand it, for lawyers to understand it, and to articulate it appropriately. But it reminds me of the first time I ever used a DNA analysis in court. I insisted that the scientists bring all of their photographs and slides and everything from the crime lab. And the woman put them up, and I took one look at them. You know what it looks like? If it's not under a microscope, it looks like film that you pull out of a camera that didn't quite have time to develop. It was just a bunch of dots. Well, I can tell you, I got that down as quickly as I could get it down. And I guess the defense, they assumed I understood it because they didn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Thank heaven. Because if I had asked a jury to believe in that blobby mess up on the poster, oh, that was a huge error on my part. Never did that again. So we're talking about the blood on the steering wheel of Alex Murdaugh's car, his Suburban, the night of the murders. But also, let's talk about the shooting, where Curtis Edward Smith, a.k.a. Cousin Eddie, shot Alex Murdaugh. Now, Dale Carson, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but Chris McDonough has it laid out beautifully. And where can we see that, Chris McDonough? Where can the listeners and viewers actually see it in full?
They can go to the interview room.
Right.
I have it up there.
Really, really great job. And that's how I first found Chris, was because he did a drive-through through Moscow, Idaho, before I could get there, and it was so perfectly done. Okay, tell me what you learned, Chris McDonough. We're talking about the Curtis Edward Smith shooting, the arranged shooting of Alex Murdaugh. Go ahead.
Wow, Nancy. So 9.2 miles away from the house, actually from the Murdaugh home, you take all these rural, country back roads, and you come to this one spot that is
okay,
just
wait a minute. 9.2 miles from Moselle, the hunting lodge?
Yes, 9.2
okay.
miles.
And when you say back roads, you mean it, because I had supper I had made for the twins and David, and I wanted to have supper with them before I left to go to South Carolina. And I got in the car at about 7-ish. So I was on the road till after midnight, and the back roads, it was a 2-lane. It was pitch dark. The only thing I saw were 40 or 50, not kidding, deer and a lot of possums. Nothing. I mean, it is very sparse and very ill lit. Well, it's not lit at all. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, dark, in the middle of nowhere, not a car for miles. We stood there for 15 minutes, didn't have a single car pass us. And you look at this area and you think to yourself, what in the world was going on here, where all of a sudden you have a tire issue, you're off to the side of the road, and boom, a gunshot goes off, and allegedly you're ambushed. I just, I had a hard time wrapping my mind around that from an investigative side. And I learned that even there was a citizen that had come by, an elderly couple, saw Mr. Murdaugh bleeding. They got weirded out and continued on. And my understanding is they had reported that to the authorities. So that's going to be interesting to hear later on down in the pipeline here during the trial.
So what struck you the most, Chris, when you looked at the spot where Eddie Smith admittedly shot Alex Murdaugh at Murdaugh's request?
What struck me the most, it reminded me of a case we had years ago where a wife and a boyfriend had lured the ex-husband to a geographic region that was very scarce, very similar to this area where this shooting goes down here. And it just struck me like this was the perfect location to kind of stage the perfect type of crime. But even in that case, they were unsuccessful. And this case, the fact that it went down the way that it did, superficial gunshot wound to the head, treatment at the trauma center in Savannah, it just didn't look right. It just didn't look right.
On day one, I said, listen, I know this is a rural road, but it's got to intersect somewhere. Somewhere it hits a highway. And what needs to be done very quickly before it's erased by accident is to go to that intersection and see if there's any type of a camera. And sure enough, there is, I believe, a Baptist church all the way at the end of this rural road where it intersects with another road, and they happen to have a camera. And I'm very anxious to hear what the camera reveals. The fact that an unknown assailant would come along and just shoot Murdaugh in the head and keep going, that stunk on day one, Dale Carson, day one. But Dale, when you look at the video that Chris McDonough has made, you see just how far away it is and how isolated it was. And also, it was not even remotely the easiest way to get from point A to point B, where Murdaugh said he was going. This was not the route to do that.
Well, that's exactly right. And of course, you're getting this testimony from two individuals whose credibility is clearly at issue, the shooter and the shootee. And so we don't really know what happened there. I agree that there are confessions, if you will, but we don't really know why they were there. Was it what's being told to the court, or not to the court, but to the investigators, or was it something else entirely? Were they meeting up there for a drug deal?
I think it was something else
gonna...
entirely, Dale, and I'll tell you why. If the plan was that Murdaugh wanted Smith to shoot him in the head for his surviving son, Buster, to get the insurance money,
Yep.
Smith would have shot him again. He would have shot him dead. 2 bullets. What is that? 50 cents? Bam, over. But he didn't. I really believe that Murdaugh's true plan was to make it appear as if the killer that killed his wife and son was after him all along, and that he intended to be a homicide victim, but then it all went down the crapper. That's what I think happened.
Well, I think you're probably right. Asking someone to shoot you is a little bit outrageous. And of course, you could accomplish that by shooting yourself, as occasionally happens in cases. So what he was doing was, I agree with you, a way to reflect away from the killings of the others.
Yeah. I'm looking again, Chris McDonough, at you flying down this, I think you're speeding, by the way, this country road. There's no way anybody else is going to come along for a good long while. No way. Did you say you were there for 15 minutes before anybody drove by?
Yes, yes.
And the fact that this was not the shortest route to where he was wanting to go just makes it that more contrived.
Yeah, and one of the other things I haven't been able to confirm yet, Nancy, is I wanted to know, is that near the edge of his property? That property out there, because that's a big hunting area. So I didn't know what the correlation was to why he would have.
I was just going to interrupt it for a second, but I don't know if you guys have been out there or seen the property before, but Summer went and got some pictures for us, and I meant to put them up, so I'll have to do that. Maybe not today, but I'll do it on the next live if not, because I forgot to save them to my computer, so I'll have to go back through my emails. But it's a large spread out there. I feel like you could do anything out that area and nobody would even hear you. I think he took full advantage of that. Oh, and I got Nancy, I paused her on she had a good look on her face, because that was not happening the other day.
Come up that back road like that, unless there's a back entrance into his hunting area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, also, do you guys know if they were talking earlier about a camera being on the corner of a road? Do you guys know if they're going to be bringing that into evidence? Because I'm kind of a day behind, so I'm curious.
You just passed that church I was talking about. Guys, another thing I wanted us to talk about were the rounds found on the property there at the hunting lodge, Moselle. What about that, Dale Carson?
Well, at a minimum, they found other rounds there. And if you know about ballistics, which you do, there are often firing pin marks, and those firing pin marks on the back of the bullet at the primer can be connected to other weapons, and they can be found to be identical to other firearms. So you can trace those expended rounds that were left at the scene to other rounds that had been found on the property.
They did that.
Tend to indicate, they did, and that would tend to indicate that the rifles used, the shotgun used, I know the rifle for certain. I'm not entirely clear about the shotgun, but the rifle certainly was one of the rifles that lived at the estate. So the question arises, how the hell did anybody get a hold of that without being a member of the hunting club, part of the family, or an owner of those firearms?
Guys, think about this. The likelihood that Murdaugh leaves at 8:49, 8:50, that he leaves the location. Actually, I think he was still there texting, hey, I'm leaving to go check on my mom at 9:06. Or was that when he made the 911 call? Let me get out. That's correct. Let me get out my trial notebook. Yeah. And then he gets back and, around 10 o'clock. And in that time, someone has snuck onto the property, unseen by anyone, goes in the home, gets guns out, shoots them, and takes off with the gun. And then, lo and behold, I guess just as they were leaving, Murdaugh pulls in. And that, 45-minute window? And takes the guns with them? I mean, how? That's so unlikely. It's so improbable.
Well, and certainly they can look at the actual vehicle to determine whether or not it was, and they have, turned on and off, what
yeah.
the transit times were. Those kind of things become hypercritical in a circumstance like that.
You know what? Speaking of that, we heard from the expert on the stand describing how they could tell when the car doors opened, when the car was put into park and out of park and in park and out of park. And none of that jived with his story that he got back, got out of the car, went and saw them dead, and called 911. It did not jive with what he said. So as you see the case as it stands right now, I believe we're inching toward the end of the state's case. What do you make of it so far, Chris McDonough?
Well, I think the state has done a good job, Nancy. I mean, you've tried hundreds of these situations where I think they've done a good job laying the foundation of the buildup here. And I think over the next couple of days, they're gonna end with their strongest evidence. What that is at this point, I don't know, but I do believe that his timeline, they've done a great job, moving that timeline around correctly and appropriately with, introducing the forensics evidence. And now we're into the DNA that's going to tie him, hopefully, to those victims, as well as his DNA or their DNA in the car, like we're hearing today, or the Suburban. So I think they've done a good job. I really do.
I think they have, and they're working up to a finale. And let me just say, it darn well better be big. I mean, a confession to Cousin Eddie. They better end with a bang. Do you agree, Dale Carson? I mean, you know how to try a case. You've got Chris McDonough,
Well, I do.
homicide detective. Dale Carson has tried many a murder case. You have to end on a high note. You cannot go out with a whimper.
Well, we have a precursor of what the end is going to be. And it's got to be something that aggregates all of this information together that they've been pouring into the jury panel's minds for the last 2 weeks. And I'm certain that if they are tactically as excellent as they appear to be, they're going to do precisely that. And then it's up to the defense to defeat those positions that are presented by the state. And of course, one of the things that struck me is that they never brought dogs out to search the property, which that's, something you would routinely do if someone had said somebody came onto my property and killed some people. That'd be one of the first things that you do. That never happened. And of course, the defense is going to make a lot out of something like that.
Well, we wait to see how they will culminate the case. We're going straight back in the courtroom. Dale, Chris, thank you for being with us.
Sorry about that. I was grabbing socks. I was like, man, I need to grab some socks really quick. Of course, as soon as I went to grab them, she went off. I wanted to show you guys the next video was going to be the body cam, actually. I was reading Ina's message a second ago. Actually, let me take that off there because it'll play the next video. But yeah, she said what she found was disturbing in the body cam was him visibly upset, giving info to cops. Someone walks by, he stops, no emotion or visible distress, says, hi, how you doing? Then goes back to cop all distressed. And you are exactly right. You're exactly right. That's what he does. So this is going to show Officer Buford McDowell of the Colleton County Sheriff's Office. He's going to be responding to the scene that evening of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh at the family's hunting cabin. I believe it's called Moselle. Yeah, Moselle. So, and this is going to be on from June 7th, 2021. So we haven't seen this. I haven't seen this body cam footage yet. I didn't see all of it in its entirety. I watched about half of it before I came on the live. But I am going to play it at like 1.5 speed just because in the beginning you don't like hear much or see much. It's just the dogs kind of barking in the background. And then that way it doesn't really hurt your guys' ears either. And then I think, so since last night we didn't get to do the Idaho 4 with Ashley Banfield, she was supposed to come on last night and do a special on that for the termination letter for Brian Kohlberger. I will do that tomorrow on the live. And then let me play this for you.
Maggie Murdaugh. Brand Standard Murdaugh. How you doing?
What's up, I'm okay.
9/15/68.
Okay, and what's your son's first name? You said Paul?
Paul Terry Murdaugh.
And what's his birthday?
4. What are they covering them up?
Tell them they don't have to do that. They don't need to.
Hey, he's asked that if we don't have to disturb anything, not to. We've got sled on the way.
We're just gonna cover them up because the family is here,
Yep.
and that's it.
All right.
Right through here, go around this way here.
So if you think
I did just want to say really quick, I didn't realize just how close Maggie and Paul were to each other until I watched the body cam footage. Even with the graphs that we saw or the pictures, like the aerial views and stuff that we were looking at, it looked like they were further apart. But in this video, I realize now how close they actually were.
it's strong enough.
Yes, I agree.
I told everybody else to cancel, so won't really else come down here.
Thank you. Hey, Cody, I need a piece of that tape whenever you get done. Yeah. If y'all don't mind, just mark them. Do what? Okay. I got a casing right here, so watch your step. It's 300 blackout. They said they had several casings by her body, but this one will be a little bit harder to find later, so I want to mark it real fast. Why are there so many shell casings and only one? Okay. I don't see anybody. Can I see a couple more pieces? I found some more. But...
Back where? Over there?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why there's 300 blackout. I'm trying to figure out why there's so many shell casings, but only one gunshot went to the back of each head.
I got you.
Not my job to
can
figure
hold
that out.
that.
I'm just curious.
I'm pretty much done here.
I only saw one more casing, but just in case I see more. Daniel put his car in there. So, no. This is, I'll tell you about this in a minute. Alright, there's one there. There's blood over here. You looking at shell casings? 300 blackout. Sheriff? Probably.
Okay.
There's a couple of shell casings out there.
Yeah, those will be easy to find. I was just marking a couple that were in the gravel. It might be harder to see at some point. Y'all familiar with this family?
I wasn't until he told me the names.
I'll fill you in later.
Murdaugh.
I don't
Anything else you need?
think there's gonna be anything from anybody to do here.
What was that?
Cause I'd say,
You said for Evo to do?
yeah, for me and
Yes.
Evo.
Okay.
Please watch your.
Hey, watch this step. Huh? No.
Okay, one's coming in right from Moselle Road.
The gentleman in the white shirt is the husband of her, and that's Paul Murdaugh. That's his mother. Paul Murdaugh was that guy in the boating accident a while back.
Yeah.
It's gonna be retaliation from family.
He did have a firearm whenever I pulled up. It's a shotgun. He's been secured in my.
It's 300 blackout. 300 blackout. Dude, I don't understand what's up with all the shell casings when there's only one.
You will have to give me just a few minutes, but yes, I will.
I couldn't have been further away from the car.
Who can start a log?
Were you at Bennett's Point?
Who's the most expendable that can start a log? Let's put it that way.
This is
It's gonna be him.
crime scene log.
A log starter. Sled's on the way. Let's push. Can we run the tape from there to there? From that last pole right there
Chad
to that last pole.
has EMS checking,
Yes, sir.
and they're both deceased.
Oh, yes.
Any weapons?
No. There's 300 blackout casings around them, but I don't see any weapons. They've not seen any weapons.
Push it from that pole to that pole,
Okay.
just in case there's something out here.
with my oldest son in Columbia? Have you called back there? No, I haven't told him yet. It's got to be you to tell him, isn't it?
Did he say for my only son, Buster? Can someone go get an officer for my only son, Buster? I'm gonna rewind that just a little bit, because if he says only son, that's very quick to be like, oh, already got one dead kid, you know? That would be very weird for him to say, in my opinion. You know, you'd be screaming to go help my kid. Let me rewind it just a little bit.
Randy, what about Buster? You gotta get, Mr. Buddy, can y'all get a police officer with my oldest son in Columbia?
Did you guys hear that? Oh, for my oldest. Oh, okay. Thank you guys. I was like, whoa, is he okay? And it's oldest. Okay. I was like, what did he say? It must be that accent. Thank you guys for helping me.
Have you called back there? No, I haven't told him yet. It's got to be you to tell him, isn't it?
I marked the ones that were in the gravel, but there's several more.
Referring to the whiskey mic, last name 114. Do we have anything else?
Mm-hmm.
So we figure out what the hell is going on, make sure nobody else drives or walk through that.
Yep.
Because I don't know if those tracks are wrong. You know, what we saw was that's still coming out on the right. Going down. There are cases everywhere.
I didn't look a whole lot, but it looked like only one wound to the back of each head. So I don't understand what the other casings are about, but
Back up over there, where it show that? It looks like the same thing, but it's back over there. We saw it over there. You got tape?
I have some. That's the dad's slash husband. Might take you a couple of months. I don't think this will be a tough one for you. Whatever it is, it ain't gonna be hard. Where are you going to take off? You want me to do it? You stand here? Or you want to do it?
No. All things the same.
I know, I understand that. I just,
It's up
if
to
you
you,
didn't,
whatever you want to do, man.
stay right here then.
All right.
Two 787 Central. When you clear, I have a problem with it. Take a vehicle. Got it. We're not limited.
Guys, is there anything I can do to help y'all? Or,
In just a minute, in just a minute, we're going to pick
Okay.
this sheet up.
all right,
And what I like to do is pick it up this way so they can't see.
yep,
The only thing we're going to do is see if there's an amp, because it changes the scope of everything. If the firearm's underneath him,
yep,
we can slow down with all this shit and just let Sled handle it.
I get that.
But if it's not, then we're going to back everything off real quick.
Okay,
And back everybody even further out.
all right, I'm gonna go grab
Grab some gloves
gloves.
real quick.
I got some right here. Y'all know who the gentleman is in shirt, yellow shirt?
Yeah, his name's Mark Ball.
Yeah, that's the law. That's the victim's partner.
Law partner. All right.
Watch the casing right next to him. I saw him on the ground, like, looking up. They're next to her.
There is parts next to him there.
All I want to do is say, if y'all can, get where you can lift it on each corner. Lift it that way. This side. You got it right here to the office.
Well, the dash is over there.
All I want you to do.
Fire rescue might have some more sheets.
That's okay. That's right. It shouldn't be anybody fire rescue right there. Lift it.
There is his law partner is back there.
Hang your lean on the bin. I don't think you're gonna fit it in, you know, blackout under there.
I don't think he put that phone back on his behind either.
I haven't asked Dad about the phone, but Dad did say he came over and checked the pulses. Beyond that, I don't know what else he did.
But if you look back here,
Yeah, see, that's him. Well, he hadn't.
He had a shotgun. He did have a shotgun, but I have secured that in my vehicle.
Yeah, but then it's an upward shot. There's his brain color. Yeah, but that's when you pick his head off and grip it. So that damn gun.
Yep.
so
I've got multiple gunshots out of that window too.
do we see a shell?
At least 3.
A shell somewhere.
All right, let's do this. The ones that are in the tape, that's it. Nobody else in the tape. Even our guys that come up, we're just gonna hold. If you would call Laura, have her divert to the office. Tell David come on with the tent. Laura, or whichever one's closest, either her or James, whichever one's closest to the office, divert to the office. Will you find out, Sheriff, if they want us to do? Get Laura started on 35?
Yep.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and get start going.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, definitely.
Hey, can you divert to the office and start at 35?
Yeah, let's,
Just so you know, I've got at least. Sorry.
Good, good.
which is gonna be the, Yep.
All right. Yep. Thank you.
Y'all just make sure on that side, that's it. Got it.
Yeah, I'm even slightly more confused now if that is a suicide.
How many pellets are normally in a buckshot?
10, 12.
reason I asked is just because the holes that are in that window very large.
Yeah, there's glass.
Some of them larger, some of them smaller.
It'd be hard to. You'd need it in wood or something solid.
There's a whole bunch of trees back there, so they might be able to find something in a tree. I don't know.
What are they thinking now?
I have no clue, but here's what I'm deducting.
He had a shot.
But basically, not his actual brain, but his brain matter is on the ceiling in there. So he was shot at an upward angle. There's a shotgun wad laying on the floor. That would point to suicide. That doesn't explain her or all the 300 blackout cases.
Think he got here, took the shotgun?
That's what I'm thinking.
Possible.
But yeah, that's the outlier.
Yeah, that and the
300 black.
dozen shell casings from 300 blackout.
Is there a casing under this, or is it just chilling there? Okay, that's just chilling. It's just trash. I'll stop.
It's okay, I got it.
Okay, appreciate you, Joe.
Those over there are not trash.
Correct.
I think this is where Cody decided to tie that back together, where his initial tear was. I'm going to clear up if I'm not needed.
Don't think I'm
Where is it at?
Southville.
No, no, where's the car? Is that yours right here?
It's outside the tape. I'll be able to get some people out of my way. Sir?
First on scene.
Daniel was first, I was second.
Danny.
Yes, sir.
The shotgun he hit with.
It is currently in the passenger seat of my truck. Yes, sir. That's exactly where it was staying. It was leaning up against the truck right there whenever I grabbed it. I haven't even touched it to clear it.
No, that's fine.
Fully loaded still. So.
That'd be great. Have a long evening.
If you want to, you might better get out before the rest of our rescue.
That's
gets here.
what I'm trying to do. I just want to check with CID and make sure I'm not needed. They are bringing tents. Do y'all need anything else with me? If not, I'm gonna clear up. All right. Daniel has that. Central 758. I'll be clearing up, heading back south.
Okay, that was the end of the body cam footage there. So we saw Alex Murdaugh in the back of the crime scene, just kind of sitting there, chilling, hanging out, walking around. He didn't even seem frantic. So if you're not unconsolable, you're not frantic. He literally looked like he was just wandering back and forth on the phone. I saw him on the telephone at one point. The officers made note of it like 50 times in the video that there was so many 300 blackout casings. They kept asking, wondering why. So happy Valentine's Day. But yeah, I don't know. That was really interesting. I wanted to show you guys that. I thought that was really good. And all is well over here. I had to let the dogs in the room because they were bothering me a minute ago. Now one of them's in my chair. It's kind of cute. I don't know why they would even, Isabel said, why would you stay there? I don't know why they would even keep him there, really. I think they really didn't know what the hell to do. Because you even heard one of the officers say, I can't remember the exact wording, but he made it seem like, this is 100%, like, this is probably because of the boating accident. This retaliation. And I'm like, wow, he had his mind made up. But if you guys are just now joining us, we did go over a Nancy Grace. She did not a podcast, but she did for Crime Online. She does stuff for them, and she does her other podcast. So we watched the Crime Online version of her today, and then we went over Alex Murdaugh's just the body cam footage of the scene the night of the crime. The crime occurred in July of 2021. And it was July, right? Or was it June? June. I'm sorry. I was like, after I said July, I was like, wait, I think that was wrong. So June. I'm sorry. And so you could see where Paul and Maggie were also, and I didn't realize how close together they were. I thought they were further apart. Like you couldn't see if you were I don't know why, but from around the corner, I didn't realize that was like a hanger right there where you could see underneath of it. I didn't think that you'd be able to see Paul's body from where Maggie was. Yeah, he really did try to sell that the boating accident. He really did, but it did not work for him. Is that what it is? Yeah, he said it was about the coat. That's so crazy that he could just say, oh, it's about the boat case. And then they really were running with that for a minute. But obviously you can't, really shoot yourself with a long rifle very well. I mean, you can if you really, really need to, but I don't think that that's plausible when they have all those guns at the house. But I am going to jump off here. This is just a short live for today. I'm going to let these crazy dogs out because they were at the door. It was kind of funny a minute ago. They were trying to poke their head in. So I am going to get off of here. Plus we had a 3.5 hour live last night and your girl is exhausted. I don't ever stay up at past 1 o'clock in the morning. Y'all had me up late. No, I'm glad we all stayed up. It was nice. If you're watching this on a replay, just hashtag replay, please. That way, I know you're here. Also, if you would comment below on the video after the live, it does help send it out to the algorithm, and I really appreciate that. And I will see you guys all tomorrow morning. Have a good evening or a good day, and have a great Valentine's Day. Bye, guys.